Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card. So today I'm doing another collaboration. This is sort of a period of time when I'm doing quite a few, it appears. These things come in ebbs and flows. This is again with the wonderful Griselle from Psychic MD. We had a great time in the last collaboration we did, so we wanted to do another one sooner rather than later. And we tossed around a lot of ideas. Griselle's incredibly inspirational. She can really sort of trigger lots of thoughts and ideas in me, certainly. So I'm sure that she does that for the people who go to her readings as well. But she came up with looking at the Clair senses. So the Clair senses, I think most people on this channel will know what I mean by that, but just in case you don't, it's the different sorts of clear understanding that psychically or spiritually comes to you. We have our physical senses like sight, hearing, touch, taste, that sort of thing. And we also have maybe a clarity on a spiritual level that aligns with that and a few others. So we wanted to explore those. And what we decided to do is that I'm going to be looking at Clair senses that you're either very conscious of and you're using them spiritually, or you're actually using them and you have them, but you maybe don't recognize them as being spiritual or psychic. You just might think everybody can do it, but actually they can't. So we're looking at all of that, like what you're already using well and how to really turbocharge that. And Griselle's looking at skills that are arising in you. Now, part of this comes from, I have a theory, and it's just my theory, that we all have all the Clair senses. What we have is at various levels of dialed up or dialed down in a way. Just like physically, some people have incredibly good hearing, incredibly good eyesight, and others maybe not so much. Right down to having a block. Someone can be deaf, somebody could be blind. Equally with the Clair senses, I think we have them all, but some are more dialed up and more sort of sharp and obvious, and we're using them, and others we may have a bit of a block, which we can look at, or we just may not be focused on them or aware of them. So Griselle will be picking up those ones that are rising in you so that you can develop them, so that you can recognize it and develop them. And I'm looking, as I say, at the ones you're already using and how you're using them and whether you recognize them as being Clair senses. Now, the Clair senses I'm going to be using, if you Google Clair senses, you'll get lots of different numbers or whatever. The one that I like to go with is actually 8 Clair senses. So they are clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, that kind of prophetic vision, often very strong dreams and so forth. Clairgustance, which is clear tasting. You know, you get that taste in your mouth about something. Clairsalience or alliance, which is the clear smell. So this is the one that I often say, you know, like if you're a medium, you might smell rose perfume or whatever, if your great-grandmother wore rose perfume, that kind of thing. There's a sense of smell and the evocative nature of smell. Clair audience, which is clear hearing. So some people that literally hear voices, others that you kind of like oral things come to you, like sort of like song lyrics that are actually like a synchronicity, or you hear in your head your thoughts have almost a syntax or a language structure that isn't the one that you would normally use. Claircognizance, which is clear knowing, that sense of just knowing something without knowing how you know it. Clairsentience, which is clear feeling, a lot about the gut feeling, that kind of just sense, you know, people will say, I feel it in my water, you know, that kind of thing. Clair empathy, which is a bit different to being an empath. It's actually clear emotional sort of connections, being able to have that in advance, like knowing someone's going to feel something before they do, or potentially at a distance. Again, mediums use this quite a bit. And Clair tangency, which is clear touch. This is like, you know, psychometry, people who can hold an antique coin and have a sense of the people who had that coin, or jewelry, that kind of thing, or who touch you and have a sense, you know, can actually pick up stuff just by touching another person. So those are the ones that theoretically we could be looking at. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying to look at maybe the top 2 or 3 that you have, just whatever comes through, and I'll have a look at what ones you're really aware of as spiritual and what ones you maybe use without being aware of that. How best to integrate all that for you. How does that connect to the Clairs that Griselle will be looking at, which are going to rise up in you? And then just any other information to help you use those and to connect them to your life path. So should be exciting and hopefully fun. I'm just hoping this is going to be a fun reading and a fun collaboration for you to really discover your spiritual and psychic strengths and evolution. So To help with the choice, I'm using the Dreams of Gaia Tarot and one other oracle to try and set a scene about what are your dominant clear senses. So I'll be reading the Dreams of Gaia Tarot in that way, not in a typical tarot reading or even in a typical oracle reading. I'll be reading it in a very specific way. And I shuffled and asked Spirit for one of the sort of dominant energies that might connect to a clear sense as the choice. There's 3 other Dreams of Gaia Tarot plus a couple of other spiritual gifts oracle cards to give me, as I sense, almost the palette, the canvas that we're dealing with. So for pile number 1, we have the scribe. For pile number 2, we have the youth. And for pile number 3, we have union. And just be drawn to whatever feels right to you, because I already have some concepts about what I think this might mean in terms of clear senses, but I want to see the other cards to get the fuller picture. And as I say, that's how I'm going to read them. If you feel drawn to more than one, by all means go to more than one. You may already have 6 of the 8 and the other 2 might be turning up in Griselle's and you might be a Clair superstar, basically. So whatever you feel drawn to is the important part here, using your own clear knowing, your own clear seeing, your own whatever, use your clear senses to choose. Go to more than one if you want. As always, the connection, the link to Griselle's reading for this collaboration is in the description box below, as are the timestamps for these piles. So when you know what reading you want to go to here, that's all down there, and I'll see you in your reading. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So interestingly, with one of the 2 cards that came from the gifts deck, we got claircognizance, which to me, I'd already thought that with this card, and I'll talk to you why. So I think that's a confirmation. But certainly, I mean, there's actually an extremely strong energy of claircognizance here. I would say you have a very dominant sense of knowing things before they happen, maybe prophetically, and it's just a knowing. It's sort of like it could represent itself to you in any number of ways, and you may use some of your other clear senses to sort of get the signposts for it, but there's a very electric knowing knowledge, all this sort of energy around air, and then we have it, as I say, confirmed here with claircognizance. And even here with Ascension Path 10, this is talking about teleportation, the Nirvana plane. This is all very much about how one moves between the worlds, the connection on that level. I would say extremely strong spirit guides that connect to this and help you to know. But the thing that I think is interesting, and I'll get to the other clear senses, but this, as I said, there could be some of you that you have a very strong clear sense or more than one that you actually don't even realize it's a clear sense. I suspect that could be the case for some of you. Because with knowledge here, I think that you put a premium on knowledge, on learning. You're a kind of like a lifelong learner, probably have gathered a huge amount of wisdom in this life and in other lives. You're very, very knowledgeable. And so it may be, particularly in some of your things, so say you're extremely well educated in something, you may be getting a knowing that is actually coming to you through your clear senses, but you may think that it derives from the learning that you have. I would say one of the things that I think you might do is that when you're learning too, you may have an instinct, a knowing about where to find information. If you were trying to process through a lot of information, that could actually come to you via your clear sentience, so that you sort of know which books to read, what chapters to read, what paragraph to go to. So you have almost an instinct. I think you'd be extremely good at research. So I suspect a lot of you, academic, writing, philosophy, creativity on that level, all of these things are connecting to this incredibly strong clear sentience, this incredibly strong knowing. But I do think sometimes you might confuse it with your knowledge. Interestingly, in how you may use it too, you might be able to take things that come to you on that level and teach others. So it could work either way, and we will look into it, but it's extremely strong. And you may feel, some of you, that you are very much of the mind. You may think, oh, I don't know how spiritual or psychic I am. It's what I think, it's thoughts. But thoughts are just as open to spiritual resonance as anything else. It's not just, the feelings or the touch or anything like that. It processes through your mind. So your mind is very, very strong. So definitely, whether you're aware of it or not, or whether you're sometimes aware of it and sometimes mistake it just for being very learned in something or doing your research, like getting the facts and so forth. The other thing I'm getting to for some of you, the way that you know you have this is that stuff comes through and then you check the facts. So it's like a grounding to it. So I think that you have a very interesting relationship, psychic relationship with information and with communication and all of those sort of things. You may also with this, because we've got the clear senses, but on top of that, we also have what else? That you could actually have quite a strong manifestation ability, particularly with heaven and earth here. But with the scribe, if you're a creative person, you write or do things like that, you may find that you write prophetically or that you write something and then it seems to happen. I've talked to writers who do this, who, write about a car accident and then what happens, in their family or something. So be aware of the power of your mind and the power of that, almost the interchange of what you perceive, what you see, what you think, and then what happens in the world. The other thing with heaven and earth here, to me, is that this is also very much showing you have very strong clear senses that are in the body, that are in the earth. So we're talking clear guston, so that clear tasting. We're talking clear salience, the clear sense of smell. We're talking also the clear sentience, the gut feeling. So I think if you go by what your body tells you quite often, it's going to be a very good barometer, because it is actually one of the ways that this information processes for you. And there could be a very strong connection between the two. So sometimes you think it's a thought and then your body confirms it. Sometimes your body sends a signal and then you think it through, and maybe your knowledge of these things helps to mediate the two. But yeah, I think you're very strongly in your body and you're very strongly in your mind. And those are the two areas where you're either, as I say, at conscious, it's really well developed, or as I say, sometimes you're doing it and you're not even aware you're doing it. You could be actually quite good at sort of like sensing when people are going to, why they're unwell and things like that. Now, that's not saying run off and become a doctor without qualifications, but you may have a good sense of that as well with heaven and earth. So that's the template we're dealing with. We're going to be looking at your very, very strong clairsentience, and as I say, the other sort of supporting energies that are more the clairs that are in the body, but we're going to explore it a bit more with tarot now. Just before that, I just jumped up to put the light on overhead. I don't know whether it's demonstrably better, but I just wanted to get a little bit more light on the subject. So what I'm going to do first of all is get a little bit more about how these gifts that you are most aware of on a spiritual level, how you're using those. I then want to have a look at how you may use some in what context where you don't even know you're using them as psychic abilities. Then anything that Spirit wants to say about how best to use these very clear gifts, any suggestions. And then we're going to do a couple of cards just to kind of connect back to Griselle's reading about what could be arising in you next. So a little bit more about these gifts. Anything else Spirit wants to talk to you about these gifts? Three of Wands reversed, Two of Pentacles reversed, Six of Wands, Eight of Swords, Two of Cups, King of Wands. Okay. First thing that this is saying to me, number one, is that you are meant to be respected and seen and recognised for this. I feel like many of you are seen as experts in something, or will be. People that are knowledgeable, people who are teachers. This is very much connected to how you're going to get recognition. And part of, I think, what you do, what you help people with, what you have recognition for, which is this clear sentience, this clear knowing, is breaking people out of mental prisons that aren't working for them. So there's something here where you're learning your clarity helps people. And you may be doing this as a teacher, you could be doing it as a counsellor, you could be doing it as some sort of mediator in a workplace. You could just be the person your friends all go to when they want to work out how to break through any blockages to success. But your knowing, your knowledge, you just seem to know, and people respond to that. And I think there's something quite charismatic about this. Like the energy this makes me think of is I had a lecturer at universities years and years ago who I really idolised, and I think most people did. He could take very dry information and make it incredibly electric, and he was very charismatic. And I suspect, looking back, that his capacity to connect, as I say, dry political subject matter basically to pop culture and the zeitgeist and almost the collective unconscious, whether he saw it that way or not, was very, very psychic. And it raised everything to this other level. And I see a similar energy here. So some of this is just about you break through blocks, you make people get excited, people sort of see how they can actualize, and you are very, very charismatic, and this knowing is incredibly attractive. this is saying that sometimes for you, it makes you feel like you're alone. And this may be the comfort of knowledge. If alone you can go into sort of learning and knowing, like you're ahead of the pack on things. It may be sometimes that you've seen things that other people aren't ready to hear yet. So there may be times where you feel like you're on a different path to others. And you may find it a little bit hard to apply this to your own material and emotional situations. It feels a little bit detached. I think the answer though might be, if that's the case, if you're very good at breaking through this for other people, and you appear to have all the answers, but in actual fact in your own life, you're not entirely sure how to do this. I think it's the dominance of the clairsentience. It's almost being overwhelmed by that. This is where the knowledge sort of helps, put it in a construct, understand it on that sort of level. But I think it's all the clear senses that are in your body that could help you with this. I think that these are there, but you may not be activating them as strongly. And I suspect there's at least 2 clear senses which will come up in Griselle's reading, which will really help for you. But I feel like these are very bodily sort of energies, 2 of Pentacles, 2 of Cups, but they're reversed. So the more that you pay attention to your body and what your body is telling you, the more you will find your own pathway with this. You're like a teacher and a light on the hill for so many people, but to make it for you, you need to embody it. And that's where the skills of your psychic senses bodily will actually be a really good barometer for you. So, okay. What one may you use without even knowing? So let's just see around that. I just want to get, say, 4 cards to give me a bit more of a sense about which of these, or even something else that hasn't come up here. These might be the ones that you're aware of. Are you using, but you're not even aware you're using it as a psychic gift? 2 of Swords, 7 of Pentacles reversed, Queen of Pentacles, Queen of Swords reversed. Yeah, this is what you're not aware of, and this is what Spirit's wanting to talk to you about. It's not, you're kind of, I think you're aware you're psychic and all that kind of thing. I think you're aware you're prophetic. But what you're not doing, it's not so much that you're not aware of it, but you're not using the physical ones as much to be your decision-making point. You haven't put as much store by that. If you feel you know something and you can verify it through knowledge, through research, you go, okay, I trust that. But your body is trying to tell you, but you're just very critical of that. So, if you got a gut instinct about something, you're going to go, I need to go off and find the proof. You're much more likely actually to get the proof for that, whereas the clear knowing, that feels almost like you kind of get that that's right, and then you might verify it later. But the stuff that's coming from your body, you're not necessarily listening to, and you're being too harsh on yourself. You're not giving it the value it should have. You are very, very talented in that area, and it will help you make the decisions you need to make. I just feel like your clear senses are so projected towards helping other people have clarity that sometimes you don't use all your clear senses to give yourself clarity. So it's sort of like you don't trust it for yourself. You trust it for other people. Maybe you don't even think you're objective enough. Some of you with the clairsentience may be tarot readers or people who use divinatory practice, and you might find it hard to read for yourself. I know that. I find it hard to read for myself. So there could be that kind of energy going on as well too. So how best can you use all these and integrate them? 3 of Cups reversed, the Star, the Knight of Swords reversed. Okay. What Spirit is saying here is, as I say, you're incredibly charismatic and inspirational for other people because you just seem to know, and people will just trust what you say. You don't trust yourself in the same way at all. What this is saying is that stop doing it all for other people here. You need to use this, the alliance of these skills, to find your North Star. You're slowing yourself down. You are so quick for everybody else. You've got the answer for everybody else, and you're dead on. You're dead on. And it gives you this charisma and this gravitas all at once. But you're kind of dissipating that energy out for dealing with other people and other people's dreams. You're meant to actually use these to find your own, and you do need to connect these two to do it. Pile 1. So that's interesting. So let's just draw 2 cards to connect back to what Griselle's doing, which is what else might be rising in you that will help you do this. The Fool reversed. The 5 of Cups. I think the Cups energy, it's coming up all over the place. I think that could be things like Clair empathy. So at a distance, because you're very electric. So there could be, I think there's telepathy and so forth. So there's a kind of at a distance, like that kind of thing, the Clair empathy, the Clair sort of feelings of things, that kind of sense of things. And I also feel, and it's not really a Clair sense, but I think it's related. I think there's a connection to past lives. I think part of what is meant to come up for you are Clair senses that you used a lot in past lives, because with the Fool reverse, there's a kind of return of that energy for you. Okay, so just to like add to it and like, you know, spice it up a bit, let's also see with the Supernatural Oracle what other sort of either spiritual gifts, which may or may not be Clair senses at all, or spiritual experiences or whatever are in the mix for you that are worth sort of being aware of. So chakras, okay. So yeah, because it's in the body. Maybe that's partly how you can do it. If you don't trust that, maybe study something like the chakra system. You're going to realise that you get a lot of information that way. I'm also thinking it'll be interesting to see in Griselle's reading if maybe clairvoyance comes up. Whenever I see chakras and colour, I always think of clairvoyance because it's very visual. Then we also get aura, yeah, and auras and the chakras and colours, I definitely connect to clairvoyance. So I think there is clairvoyance there. So this is sort of something to be aware. It's definitely in your kit bag. And as I say, it'd be interesting to see if that comes up. It doesn't have to have come up to be valid with Griselle. She may be picking up something else. This might be one of the other things that you actually use and you're not even aware you're using it. If you have very vivid dreams that seem to come true, then it could be a marriage of those two things. It also says that studying these things is going to open up that side of you. And candle magic, working with the invisible, ritual. I think this is finding the illumination to trust what you're getting. Because the invisible, it's sort of like, I think there's something very tangible about your knowledge and how it turns out to be right. But this guidance, you've got to connect with more. You've got to connect more to the invisible world to trust it. So I think that's what's going on there. A lot about light energy as well, light frequencies and that kind of thing. Maybe even healing with light in some way is part of what you could do. So I want to look with these three, because they're pieces of advice, some astrology energy as well for you that could help you understand how to unlock all of this and make that connection. So when we're talking about the chakras, as I say, I think it very much connects back to all the bodily sort of Clair senses for you. What astrology energy is operating around how you're using that ability, plus the possibilities, as I say, of something like clairvoyance as well. We've got Moon and Jupiter. It's definitely a place where you can get in touch with your psychic capacity to expand, have joy, and so forth. So it'll get you in touch with your feelings. The more that you do this and the more that you go into the body, the more you connect your feelings to your knowing. Let's see whether that's an easy energy for you or whether it's going to be a bit of a challenge. Conjunction, it's easy. It's easier than you think. This tells me you really are using this, you're just not trusting it yet. Also that you may have very well developed clairvoyance. You just may not be sort of seeing it for what it is. Then around aura, similar sort of energy, what you could do if you sort of practice reading and seeing auras. Mercury and Saturn, okay. This helps you give structure, okay. Why it's important to maybe look at things like aura, colour therapy, colour, information, clairvoyance, all of those things, is that you are very mercurial. You're very much in your mind. You're very much about knowledge. You're very much about what you can communicate. This gives it form. This is actually a really key way to connect those two things, because Saturn is all about form. It also may connect you to this ability around past lives with Saturn as well. Let's again see whether that's an easy connection to make. Square. It's not easy, but it's dynamic. So that's telling me two things. Firstly, I think that it's quite clear here that you have a dynamism between your mind and between wisdom and knowledge, which is Mercury and Saturn working that way. But I think that maybe the bringing in all the past things, the connecting to the material, your mind has to be the thing that makes you do it. Your mind has to be seeking confirmation. And this is where the knowledge is operating. So then, if we then say working with the invisible, the rituals, the kind of magic side of this, the connection of the knowledge to the material, what energy is around that for you? And we have Venus and Jupiter. This is all meant to be very benefic for you. Expand both your emotions, your heart, all of those sort of connections, definitely. That like finding that way to connect them is going to be very beneficial on that level. Let's see whether that's easy to do. Grand Cross, no, this is a bit harder to do. And I think it's a bit harder to do because you don't necessarily trust this side as much. And yet it really, and this is where ritual could be really helpful. Ritual, practice, seeing the results, looking for the evidence. So if we're looking at a kind of a connection between what you love and care for and are passionate about with what you want to expand, how you deal with that with two other planets. Venus again. So there's a lot about this. This is telling me at the moment this is triggering, maybe around love for you. It may be that, in fact, you're really good at all this sort of stuff, but you don't trust yourself when your bodily clear senses are telling you this is the one in love or in something that you're passionate about. You may get a lot more dismissive of that sort of evidence and information when it's something that you really care about. So you need to look at that. And the other planet involved is Jupiter. Okay, all right. Jupiter, what this effectively is saying is it's like at the moment energetically, to give you the idea energetically, it's like Venus and Jupiter in your chart are kind of opposite or something. So there's always a tension between what you love and how you expand. And right now it's on steroids because transiting Jupiter and transiting Venus are also opposite. So they're creating this Grand Cross. There is a very good opportunity right now as a result of that to balance these energies out. But I think it takes a practice of some sort because there's so much kind of like at stake with Venus, with what you really care about. And expansion can be too quick or too overwhelming and hard to accept. I think there's just something about a ritual, a process, and about connecting it to your knowledge. And that will marry these two really well together for you. So that's interesting. It tells me time is of the essence. It's important you came to this reading. Excuse me. So let's get you some spiritual guidance then. I wanted to get you a couple of cards from your higher self and a couple of cards from your soul about how using these skills are important for you now. So from your higher self, Galactic soul, as your energy vibration expands, you remember your galactic family. This might be part of it. You could be getting this Clair sentience from sort of off-world sort of energy or galactic energy, but it got to ground it like heaven to earth. And that's the tricky bit. It's because it's like when you're in the sort of space of the galaxy, that's all fine. But when you're trying to trust it on earth, you just need to know. You need to know it is coming. There's the knowledge and the connection is valid. And way changer, you're a liberating force here to inspire change and challenge the system. So how you interact with others and how other people listen to you and how you inspire, this should be also proof for you. You're after proof. Your body could tell you a lot of it, but you don't trust it. So remembering this connection, maybe past lives off-world or something, and the fact that you're this energy, you're very inspirational. That's your proof. People think you're right. People do what you want. Well, not necessarily do what you want, but they follow your sort of lead. So let's see what the soul has to say around you using the clear senses. Resurrection, the old key. The old key once lost is found. Do you unlock the past? You are meant to unlock the past. I think this is the important thing. Your body is going to be the barometer for that. There could even be something ancestral because of the body. And forgiveness, the olive branch. When all is said and all is done, forgive and move on. Maybe what this is saying is one of the reasons you haven't trusted this is that at some point, because there was a lot of emotion involved, you did trust something, but it wasn't coming through clearly, and it didn't work out, and something, you got hurt. That's what this sort of looks like. So you really don't trust that because it was overwhelming. There was too much, and you couldn't see it clearly in the way that you do this. But there's something that you've done before, past lives or even earlier in this life. If you resurrect that, you can connect the two. That was more an aberration. You really are talented in this area, pile one. Okay, so with all of that, let's see from history, a saint or a mystic that might really also show kind of what clear sense, strength, lineage you were from. And that's how we'll close out the reading for you. Carl Jung. Wow. Collective unconscious. Yeah, you're dialed straight in. So Jung, of course, was into depth psychology, into archetypes, into symbolism, all of these things, all this knowledge, all this connection to history too, because archetypes and their power and all that comes from history, comes from knowledge, comes from the Akashic records, comes from all of that sort of thing. So you are really, really dialed in, really, really intelligent around all of it. But it's interesting because psychology is also, it's a psyche, it needs to not be detached from the body and from the material world. So I think the work of connecting that, understanding the past, understanding the shadow, and understanding where one has been overwhelmed and where that might have jammed the frequency on some of those clear senses, or where actually paying attention to the clear senses rather than ignoring them might have been helpful. All these things will help you. But there's a very ancient sort of galactic deep psychological heritage to how you use your clear senses, pile one. So I hope you enjoyed the reading. I hope that resonates for you. Do go and see Griselle's reading to see what's coming up next, because something's coming up, that's for sure, when you get Carl Jung. So see what other clear senses are meant to rise in you now. And use this template to trust the ones that you already have. I think you do trust these, but trust the ones that you already have physically. And she may well talk about those. And if that's the case, then it's really bringing them to the surface. But whatever one she does, it's ready for that to arise. Carl Jung is telling you that, and to assimilate it within your psychological framework. So hope you enjoyed the reading. Like and subscribe if so, comment if you would like, and I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Youth, which is a interesting card to sort of try and get a sense about what clear senses could be associated with it. But I see the Youth here as a journey, people on a journey. And then we also have emotions, and it kind of confirms something that I did feel when I looked at the Youth card in the introduction, which is that I sense that this is a combination of clear cognizance, which is clear knowing. So having a kind of knowledge that could guide people, particularly younger people or people who are not as experienced on the path as you. But also, I think the clear empathy, this concept of being able to connect emotionally either to the future of someone, how they're going to feel as they grow, as they develop, or even at a distance, because the Youth here looks to me like they're about to go on a journey. So I think you have very strong clear cognizance, clear knowing, and I think you have very strong clear empathy. And they may kind of merge sometimes. I suspect you may feel that it's more the clear empathy, that you feel more like an empath in the sort of way that we talk about an empath, as opposed to just being someone who feels empathy, but someone who is an empath. That may be the way that you most recognize it, but I actually think there's also a clear cognizance with it. I think that you have both a knowing and a empathic feeling, and it's almost done at a distance. So I almost feel like, and this is sort of like maybe picking up, it is a kind of version of clear cognizance. It may also be clairvoyance as well, remote viewing, things like that you could be very good at. Because I just have this sort of sense of like a connection at a distance. And also, when we've got a Pentacles card here and a sort of sense of knowledge, there's a knowingness. Your knowing also connects to the bodily senses. So the clear gustance for clear tasting, clear salience for sense of smell, and so forth. So I think that you have a very strong connection to your body and to your empathy, but you may see them as just kind of empathic sort of energies. And you may think, I'm an empath and that's it. And you are, but you are also knowing. And it connects to something at a much higher order. When we have faith here, there's a kind of a sense of a knowledge and a knowing that takes you beyond the need for evidence, because it's so emotionally felt. It's felt in the body and it's felt within. So I feel those ones are very strong in you, but I suspect you may sometimes not recognize the clear knowing. You may just think it is faith rather than a kind of knowledge. And I think part of that is because you're very connected to angelic realms with angel numbers here and star attunements to higher spiritual planes. I think that some of what is your clear senses you put down to guides, you put down to, spiritual sort of paths that you were following, but they are actually within you. So I think you are very developed on those two levels, the clear knowing and the clear empathy or clear feeling. So let's get a little bit more information on that. We're going to look at a bit more just in general about it. We're going to look at what ones that you may be using without realizing they're spiritual. Let's see if I can confirm the feeling I have with that. How best to use them in conjunction. And then we'll also do a couple of cards to connect to what could be rising in you that Griselle is going to be looking at. But first, a little bit more information about how what your current clear senses are. The world, yeah, it's very, very wide-ranging. The Lovers, Page of Wands reversed, the Magician reversed, Justice reversed. Wow. Ace of Swords reversed. All right. Okay. This is telling me about one that isn't showing up. Oh, actually, it is. It is actually confirming what I'm saying in reality, thinking about it. But firstly, this is confirming that there's something of a distance about what you do. You see at a distance. Well, I'm thinking like remote viewing, that sort of stuff you'd be very good at, astral travel, that kind of thing. So things that are connected to clear senses, but, have their own sort of genre, or for want of a better word. So there's something about doing things at a distance with you and connecting on an emotional level, relationship, a very strong relationship. A lot of your psychic and clear senses show up in your capacity to navigate and connect the right energies in terms of relationship, whether it's love, as in romantic love, or other types of things. There is a side of you that is, I think, clairvoyant as well, but I think you suppress it a bit. So it'll be interesting to see if that shows up in Griselle's reading. But the rest of this is the clear knowing. The Magician reversed, Justice reversed, Ace of Swords reversed. It's all very much the clear cognizance. It's the knowledge. But I think you distrust it. You distrust it. Because like the Magician reverse, it's kind of like you put a lot of store by what you feel, your emotions, bodily sort of energies, empathy, all of that kind of thing. But if it's coming to your mind, I think you've been burnt with this, with people who've used this sort of ability for manipulation and you don't like that, or it's there and it's very powerful, but you're a little bit afraid of it. You're a little bit afraid of what you would do with it. Now, if you are able to do things like remote viewing, you may well have even come across people who would like to exploit that. But you definitely have clear cognizance. You definitely do. But it's like it worries you, whereas the empathy feels pure and good and it seems to align with what you feel your highest spiritual purpose is. I think that you suppress this and put this down to, I will follow faith, I will follow my spirit guide. They know. They're telling me, it's not me. But it is actually you. So it's a very interesting energy to be aware of. So then let's have a look at what ones are you using without knowing, which is kind of connecting into this, I think, but we'll just get a little bit more information on that. Page of Swords, yeah. Death. King of Swords. The Moon reversed. Okay, yeah. What is coming up through your clear knowing? You are using it, but you're not fully acknowledging that you're using it. You're thinking it's just doing the right thing. So you're not kind of going, oh, this is a psychic sense. This is my mind working and my mind processing this information. So I pick it up empathically and then I translate it into a communication, a philosophy, and that's how I make my choices, rather than it is also a clear sentience. Actually, I feel like I want one more card. I can't remember whether I did 4 or 5 cards in pile 1 for this, but oh yeah, the Devil reverse. Yeah, it's a lot of power. You have a lot of power. This is the thing. A lot of power. And as a result, you're kind of worried about it. So you prefer that just to be in your head and not you. And in fact, I think there is, you tend to ascribe it to a spirit guide or a spiritual, a process, or it's all God, it's all, all glory to God. Nothing wrong with saying glory to God, by the way, but there is a denial of what is part of you as associated with that, which is really part of it. So how best can you use all these skills, particularly knowing that maybe you're suppressing that a bit? Nine of Pentacles, the Tower, wow, Four of Cups reversed, Knight of Pentacles. Okay, you need a cause. This is the Faith. You're very Grail Knight-esque, you know, you're that sort of person. And you need a material cause. This is why you're quite comfortable with all the skills that you have around empathy or with the body, because it's material and you feel like it's generous. I think you're a very generous person. And that certainly is part of it. Like being dedicated to breaking through emotional blocks is definitely a way that you can use this. But it is saying that you'll be even more powerful and break through that much more if you really appreciate fully the true sense of all that you are, because you're not doing that yet. Nine of Pentacles, self-made person. You don't, this is not necessarily coming from, you could have spirit guides. I mean, we all have spirit guides, but there is still something that's intrinsically you, and owning that is important for you to use these correctly. So what other Clairs, just a couple of cards, you know, might arise in the reading with Griselle, or what other information does Spirit want to say about that when you are considering the reading with Griselle? Or if you've already seen it, you know, what you've just heard. Ten of Swords reversed. The Knight of Wands reversed. I think they just want you to think about this stuff because you have it. It may well be that you go over there and the reading says that, you know, Claire, cognizance is rising in you or whatever, and it's always been there, but you've suppressed it if that's the case. Otherwise, I think there's sort of something, it may be saying that there's something that you could connect, whatever these other Claire senses are. So say for argument's sake you had clairvoyance rising up, then seeing the vision of it all, connecting that back to your knowing, that might be a way to break through this block that you have. In fact, it could very well be something like that with wands coming up as an energy. There could be sort of stuff about your vision and clairvoyance and so forth that's very important to bring into the mix. Okay. So we also wanted to use Supernatural Oracle to sort of see if there's any either other spiritual gifts, other spiritual approaches or whatever that would help you with not only fully using what you have in your kit bag already, but also accessing the abilities that Griselle will be talking about. So, Dragon, guarding your treasures. Yeah, there's a lot about power here, and some of you may even think you have a dragon guide. You probably do. You know, I'm not saying you don't, but it's kind of like what is yours is yours. It's not looking to an external force to be the mediator of that. You could have a guide helping you deal with it, but owning what is yours. Then we have tea leaf reading. Signs will guide you. So yeah, I think things like, because that's very visual, clairvoyance might be sort of something that is going to rise in you, or just divinatory abilities is another way to do this. It's not just about empathy, it's also about claircognizance. So that may be to bring that up to the surface. So, you know, some form of divinatory practice. And which, setting your intentions here, you're powerful, all right? I suspect that, you know, you may follow some sort of tradition. Which tradition, you know, like traditional religion, whatever it is. But your power goes beyond that. It's like, I think that's what you need to sort of understand. So we want to use some astrological energies to really bring these sort of hints out. So around dragon, around owning your own power and guarding your own power, an astrological energy to consider is Venus and Pluto. What do you love and what do you want to transform? Has a very Persephone feeling, Venus and Pluto together. So how deep will you go for what you love, really? So let's see whether these planets work easily together for you around owning your own power, or whether they're a challenge. Fine, they work easily together. So this is a bit of a sign for you. The way to work out what you need to transform to bring your power in is to focus it on what you love, which goes back to faith. Okay, then tea leaf reading, which I think is a sign about maybe doing some divinatory practice of some form or other. The astrological information around that is Neptune and Neptune. Yeah, this is how to really connect in with your psychic ability. You would be very good at divinatory stuff. This is the claircognizance, the clear knowing, and probably clairvoyance as well, I would say, clairvoyance rising up in you. Let's just see how Neptune operates in general for you. Square, so you're at odds with your own abilities. Like if it's in your body and it's empathy and you feel like it's other person centered and you can go glory to God or whatever it might be, or glory to whatever spiritual deity you follow, whatever it might be, then you're fine. But when it's just you and your ability and your unconscious, there's a bit of a tension. To be aware of that, the divinatory practices may help you be more comfortable with that. And then around owning your inner witch and whatever that means to you. Sun and Venus, yeah, this is loving your life path. Love and connection, divine feminine, all these things are quite important for you to use this powerfully. So let's see where the Sun and Venus operate easily for you in this regard. T-square, they kind of a challenge. It's a challenge for you to really love your life path, love your power. Let's see what other planets involved in this T-square. What other part of tension needs to be worked with? Chiron, healing. This is why I think you probably are a healer. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it puts an emphasis on the other person, on empathy, on the bodily, all of that kind of thing. And so it's more that you're focused on that and you have a passion for that. But to fully do it and to bring even more to it, you need to bring this clear cognizance up. You need to bring the clear knowing and possibly clairvoyance, the clear seeing as well. So that's how you connect. So the clear empathy and to some degree clear sentience as well, the clear feeling, do work really well for you for a healing energy, and that's great, but you're so much more than that. And it'd be very interesting to see what you get in Griselle's reading. So let's see what your higher self has to say and what your soul has to say about ways to use these abilities. So a couple of cards from your higher self. Explore. A soul adventure calls you. Explore the uncharted waters of the inner and outer world, of the Neptunian world, of all things divinatory, of all things liminal. There's so much more there. Don't be worried about it. And Atlantean soul. Your Atlantean soul brings service to humanity and an awareness of universal identity. So, you are, it's universal. It's the world. It's far-reaching. It's back to ancient civilizations. It's healing. It's loving of humanity, faith, all of this sort of stuff. But as I say, to some degree, the power of it worries you. So it's how you come to terms with that, pole 2. So let's see what your soul has to say about it all. Firstly, unspoken, the golden masks, the mask we use to hide our feelings, what has gone unspoken. What I think in this case is what has gone unexplored. And again, I think divination, using divination can bring this out. But and you're wearing masks in a way. So there's a sense of becoming, like not hiding who you are. And, here you are. Powerful, the illuminated warrior. Her tower is tall, she rises up, she conquers all. Like you're meant to use this. You're powerful for a reason. But you're hiding it. You're hiding it at the moment. So just to finish off, since Spirit's pretty insistent and you kind of explore this stuff yourself a little bit more because you're more than you're giving yourself credit for, I wanted to get a saint or a mystic from history to kind of maybe typify some of how you could use your clear senses best now, both the ones that you have now and also the ones that Griselle will be talking about in terms of what's rising up in you. Wow, Harry Houdini, mastery. Yeah, mastery. You have mastery, actually owning that. And escaping from whatever, because he was an escape artist, escaping from whatever limitations you put on yourself. Unshackling yourself, taking the masks off, exploring, all of these things. But you are a master at this. It's time that you owned it. So I hope that that's a good cheerleading call for you, because I think that Spirit's being pretty insistent here. I hope you enjoyed the reading. Do go and see Griselle's reading to see what else is coming up in you that you can assimilate with this, but don't undersell yourself. I think that's the main message here, pile 2. So I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with union. And to me, that was a bit of a tilt towards thinking that one of your clear senses that's well developed is probably either clear empathy, so that kind of emotional sense, understanding emotions in advance or at a long distance, or potentially also clear sentience, gut feeling, the kind of empathy on that sort of level, the connection and so forth. And certainly the second of those, the gut feeling, very much fits with having the Nine of Pentacles here, the sense of the offering and connection on a physical level, with information coming that way. Could also pick up a little bit of clair gustance, clear tasting, or clair salience, the sense of smell, clear smelling, anything to do with the body. So there's a sort of an emotional, empathy, connection, relational side of this, which is also shown with the counsellor. So I definitely think the clair empathy and clair sentience are very strong for you. The other thing that I would say is that you're meant to do something with this. The two cards that came down for other gifts are actually two ways of using clair senses. One is tarot card reader. So I think that's picking up, and you can do counselling with tarot card reading, but I think that's picking up either clairvoyance or claircognizance as well, depending on whether you're primarily a visual tarot card reader, that the visual sort of intuition is the channel in, or whether you're more, maybe even clairaudience, that it comes to you in words or in thoughts. But one of those other clairs, so clairvoyance, clairaudience, or claircognizance, like clear knowing, you've got that because there's a divinatory side to what you do. But the spiritual herbalist is also this being able to connect it to the body and like heal. So there's a healing energy for you. So you've got quite a bit of them actually all together here. But I would say that the primary ones are like the clair empathy and the clair sentience, and either clairvoyance or maybe claircognizance, or a little bit of both. I think those are the key things, and you're meant to do it. I mean, I think many of you are meant to do it at least as a hobby, if not as a profession, because this is part of your destiny. You may also be able to use these skills, particularly I think the divination in this case, helping people see their own destiny as well too. So you may be a bit of a light bearer, which would maybe tilt the tarot card more to claircognizance and clairvoyance, but it really depends. I think it'll depend on who's come to this reading as to whether you're a very visual person in the way that you get information, or whether it's more a kind of knowing. But I definitely think this group are spiritual seekers and people who are meant to do something with this in their lives. So given that, let's get a little bit more information from tarot about the clair skills that you have at the moment, and whether I think you're using them. I think the other thing about this is that in one of the other readings, there was a sense that there were two, but one wasn't even seen as a spiritual thing. In another one, there were two, but one was suppressed because there was fear about the power of it. In this one, I think you're very well aware. Like this clair senses you have, you're very well aware and you're very developed in using them. So I don't think it's really about things that you don't know about. And we are going to ask a little bit about that, so it's more probably a level of degree, but I think you do know that you're aware of them. But let's just see a little bit more about that for you. The High Priestess, yeah, you're aware, all right. Queen of Swords, Five of Wands reversed, Five of Pentacles, Seven of Swords, Eight of Wands reversed. All right, so what I would say, you're a High Priestess, you're very spiritually developed, like you're quite aware of these abilities, and you may well be using them in practice already. I think you tilt towards the claircognizance rather than the clairvoyance. You probably have clairvoyance, but you are much more, it's very much in your mind. Your mind takes the information in, like there could be a bit of clairaudience, as I say too, things that are communicated to you that way. But in your divination, it's less about like looking at the tarot cards for the pictures. It's more about where that takes you in terms of a level of knowing. So I think it's claircognizance rather than clairvoyance, for the most part, though there is some of that. It's just not as emphasized at the moment. So you're kind of in that sense a bit more like a reader like me. I am much more about what are the symbols, not the visuals, but what they mean, and the wording and the narration around them. There's that kind of sense to you, and it helps you clarify what's coming through to you on the sort of from the other senses, because you do have clairvoyance, you do have the kind of visual stuff, but you're not really focusing on that at the moment. It would be interesting to see whether that's what's rising for you, for instance, from Griselle. But if not, it's there, it's just not focused as much. So you focus on the claircognizance or clairaudience, and you focus on all the sort of things that feel bodily. those are the ways that you bring this information up. So let's see a little bit about what you are using and perhaps not even knowing. It is possible that this is so rational with the Queen of Swords and the Seven of Swords reversed that you may actually disconnect them. You may think most of it is coming through sort of empathy and telepathy and the bodily sort of things. You may not recognise that you're using this claircognizance and potentially clairaudience as well. It's possible, but let's see what we get in terms of what you may be using without knowing that it's actually spiritual. The Sun, Strength, Knight of Cups reversed, Ten of Pentacles reversed, Six of Wands reversed. Okay, Spirit's got a point of view about this, actually. It'd be very interesting to see whether clairvoyance came up with Griselle's reading. But as I say, it may be that others are coming up, and this is really just Spirit saying it's already there. It's saying it really is there. The light of the sun, the vision of that is a strength of yours that you're not even realising that you're using. It's saying like you could almost dial down the sort of emotional empathy, physical stuff and bring that up and do even better. So again, if you're looking at tarot cards, as I say, if you are kind of more about what's the symbolism and what the meaning of the cards, like maybe focus a bit more on the visuals. There might be a lot there for you because there is a very strong visual thing there. It's a strength, but you're not really seeing it as psychic for some reason. You may be very drawn, if you use tarot cards, you may be very drawn to certain decks, and without realising that is actually a form of psychic connection, knowing what the visual needs to be, for instance. So it's just something to think about. You may think of that more as aesthetics, but it's not. It's more than that for you. So how best do you use all of these together? Nine of Wands, Ten of Swords, Page of Cups, Queen of Pentacles. You've got, look at that. It'll be very interesting to see what you get from Griselle's, because I think you've kind of got all the clear senses. It's like it really is just matters of degree and how you dial up or dial down. And you're probably aware of it for the most part, though I do think that you underestimate the visual, the clairvoyance. But I think this is showing a process. It's actually showing that the visual is the energy to first access. It kind of like it helps you sort through what you might be getting as claircognizance or a clairaudience, so that you can connect to your purpose, which is this emotional connection, and bring some sort of healing. So it's actually saying there's a process of using them, but you're maybe not recognizing that you're doing that. And it's possible that if you're using the sort of claircognizance or whatever, you're melding it with these. You're not actually seeing it as separate, but they are actually steps. It's like the vision, the idea, the connection, the healing. That's what it's saying that you're doing. So that's really interesting. So what we also wanted to look at, firstly, actually, before I do that, I also want to have a look at just two cards for how this could connect with Griselle's reading. Maybe I almost stepped past that because you are already using all of them, so it's more a matter of degree, but anyway, we'll see. Ace of Cups reversed, Eight of Cups. I think that this is saying you have a really strong connection to the emotional side of this and to how it is with relationship, but I think it is saying that you can use these skills more broadly. And so maybe whatever Claire senses she really focuses in are really ones worth thinking about, because and if it is the clear senses like clear empathy and things like that, if it is the clear feeling, all that kind of thing, then it's how do you make this, let go of what is not working to bring in what is good, because there's something healing about you. Okay, so let's use the supernatural oracle for either other skills, clear senses you might have, or ways that you could use them that Spirit thinks would be good for you to consider. So we have time travel. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. In the other realms with the High Priestess, destiny. What is destiny? Time travel is kind of really understanding where one fits in the greater continuum of time. So, yeah, your dreams would be pretty interesting, I think, pile 3. And then we get chakras. Okay, so this turned up for another one. So, yeah, I always think like chakras, I mean, it is in the body. I think you've got the body thing down pat, but it's also colour and visuals. I do think this is something about bringing colour and vision in. And maybe, studying the chakras is a way to do it, because you have a very strong healing approach. So that may be a nice way to marry it all together. And wow, this came up for somebody else, witch, your own inner witch, your own inner high priestess, sort of understanding this is someone that you're destined to be, something that you're destined to be. So what I want to do is I want to get you some astrology energy to show you how these suggestions work, whether they're a bit of a challenge or whether there's something that works easily for you. So some astrology around time travel, this concept about, the right timing, getting this, and maybe it's also pointing to the order in which you use things, because I think there is something in that for you. The astrology energy around it is Mercury and Venus, connecting the sort of like the clear knowing with the heart. Yeah, because you maybe are not seeing the clear knowing as much as a psychic thing. As I say, the heart is sort of like the emotion and the empathy, very much so. Let's see whether Mercury and Venus are operating easily for you to find the right timing and the right process. Conjunction. There is a very good thing if you can connect your mind, the clear cognizance, that kind of thing, that kind of side of things with your heart, with the emotion, it should work really, really well. That's how you get the timing right. That's how you get the order of things right. So that's interesting. Then we have the chakras. What is the energy around that for you? Mars and Uranus. Okay, there's a big breakthrough, and it helps you activate all of this more. In fact, understanding and getting that kind of energy in and into alignment and color therapy and all that sort of stuff really activates it. But is this an easy energy or is it a challenging energy for you? Trine, it's an easy energy again. These things are meant to, Venus and Mars operate really well for you. But one is about bringing the inspiration in, and then one is creating the change, the dynamism. It's also probably why it was the 10 of Swords reversed. It's like bringing this energy in and then creating the change to bring in the new. You're a bit of a, as I say, a way shower and a bit of a kind of a innovator and almost entrepreneur with this as well. So then getting in touch with your inner witch, your inner high priestess, whatever you want to call it. What's the astrology energy around that? So we get Mercury and Mercury, that gets back to the clear. So you are very powerful around the clear cognizance, and the clear, and to some degree connecting that then to what you feel, the clear sentience. That's the thing. But there is a real thing about the minds and the meeting of the minds. I think you're probably highly telepathic, actually. And you have a strong message to bring out. Let's see whether Mercury works well for you, or whether you have a bit of a ambivalent connection with that side of things. Yod, well, you better work well with it, because it's your destiny. With the destiny at the beginning. So there's a message you're meant to get at. You're meant to do something in this space, and there's meant to be a destiny. So it's like it's activated. I think it will be activated strongly in your chart whenever Mercury is in a dynamic aspect, transiting Mercury to Mercury, if you know your chart. But if you look at that, like a double whammy of the mind and the communication and so forth, what is it pointing towards? What is the kind of astrological energy to describe your destiny? Neptune, your psychic ability, your inner witch, your high priestess. It is part of it, but you may not fully see it as part of it, but it's in understanding that and using that energy, like kind of almost exponentially using that energy, that you really connect to your psychic ability and your psychic destiny. Okay. So I wanted to see what your higher self had to say about this and what your soul had to say about it. So firstly, a couple of cards from a deck for your higher self to be talking to you about using your clear senses. Creative engineer. You have a creative intelligence capable of multiple solutions. Yeah, this is all this Mercury energy. You're meant to be an innovator. You're a healer, but you're also an innovator. And galactic soul. As your energy vibration expands, you remember your galactic family. So this is, again, I think that, it's through the mind, it's through telepathy, it's through astral travel, it's through, clear cognizance, that kind of thing that connects you to your creativity, to your mind, and to, I think, something more ancient in you. So your higher self really wants you to pay attention to that. And then your soul. Soulmate, the spirit bear, the line of the heart, a beating life force, and infinite love. I think you're meant also in this to find your soulmate if you haven't already. And some of this, and this is why we had the kind of sense of the sort of emotional stuff as well too. You're meant to find that, that's part of how you bring it all together. And memories, the ocean shore, watch at the shore, what has gone before. I see, I remember. There's a lot of karmic energy with this. It's probably why we had time travel, did we not? Yeah. There's a lot of karmic energy as well. Your soul's reconnecting you to someone and to something. And that's part of this journey. It's part of the destiny. So you're meant to do this and you'll help a lot of other people, but it's also part of a journey for you back to someone, I think, or back to something that was very much of your soul family. So that's interesting. So just to finish off, I wanted, thinking about things in the past or soul family or whatever, I just wanted to get you either a saint or a mystic to kind of encapsulate the energy of how you best use your clairsenses at the moment. St. Christopher, the soul journey. So yeah, it's a soul journey. In the end, for you, it's a soul journey. This is why we had the world as well too. It's very expansive, very expansive. Because it was the world. We did have the world, didn't we? I'm just now trying to make sure that I remember correctly what came before. Oh, maybe not. I might be mixing that up with one of the other readings, in which case there might be some of you that are coming to both. But this is definitely confirming this is a soul journey. So St. Christopher was said to have carried the baby Jesus over a waterfall sort of area, river sort of area. And it's about that connection with the soul and the right people, connecting to the right people, the right spiritual guides and so forth. I think you're destined to be a guide for many. This is why it's important for you to kind of get involved with your inner high priestess more and to trust that the Clair cognizance in particular is really important for you. But I think it's also you're meant to find your soul family and your soul destination. For some of you, this may be one of the last incarnations on earth. I wouldn't be surprised. So it kind of all comes together, probably why there's a sense of all the senses and how you open them up. But it'll be very interesting to know what Griselle says for you about what is really rising now to be assimilated and used. And whether it is actually something that's sort of already here but you're suppressing it, or whether it's other senses. So do go and see her reading. I hope this resonated for you. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.